Heavy metal and movies go together like heavy metal fans and alcohol. The two are practically an inseparable pair of entertaining degeneracy. That's right, us metal fans are not always damaging our ears with blast beats or straining our necks at concerts. Sometimes we watch movies as well. In fact, sometimes we watch movies while listening to metal.
Why do you want to listen to the TV with the stereo on?
Because I like to party.
And throughout the years, the two mediums have intertwined and led to various heavy metal themed films. Some being hilarious, some being inspiring, and many of them being absolute shit. But with so many to go through, wouldn't it be nice if someone narrowed down that metallic filmography into a list of the 12 best movies for metalheads? Well, have no fear because the savior is here. This is a list of my personal favorite metal-ish films. Some are documentaries that are highly interesting, some of them are classic comedy films and cult favorites, and some are actual real Hollywood films, one of which isn't even about metal at all, but it'll work, you'll see. So grab a beer and get a pen and paper and pull up your favorite movie torrenting website and let's go over what I think are the 12 best films for metalheads. So headbang the like button, stage dive onto the subscribe button, and windmill the video to your friends. If you're a fan of the channel and you'd like to show your support, consider becoming a member. Memberships are only 99 cents a month, and every one really helps me toward my goal of creating a life-size Godzilla to invade Canada. And now let's start making our way down the list of the 12 best movies for metalheads. Number 12, Rockstar.
Am I being kicked out of the group that I started?
This is a classic one for any rock fans out there with aspirations of one day being a sellout. Rockstar stars Marky Mark of the Funky Bunch as the singer of a glam metal cover band. As it starts to dawn on him how fucking lame that is, and he gets fired from said band, he quickly lands his dream job, as one of his favorite bands ends up hiring him to be their new singer. The film is actually inspired by the true story of Tim Ripper Owens, former vocalist of Judas Priest and every single other band that's ever needed a singer. Rockstar is centered around 80s arena rock, when the excesses of road life were especially extreme. His life dreams and longtime relationship are quickly put to the test as he's suddenly thrust into the rock star spotlight. The film also features cameos from many actual musicians, including Zakk Wylde, Jason Bonham, Miles Kennedy, Michael Starr, and a couple of others. It's a pretty good film that manages to depict how the life of a rock star might seem so dreamy to some, but it might end up not being all they hoped for. Number 11, The Dirt. If you watch my channel, then you'll know that I shit on Motley Crue a lot, and while it's always deserved, I do enjoy the band's notorious legacy of their early days. And their Netflix film The Dirt did a surprisingly good job at capturing the excitement, chaos, and intoxication of the time. I was always fascinated by the rock and roll history and the cocaine-stained streets of the Sunset Strip in Hollywood, and in that regard, this film is a must-see. They do not shy away from the insane drug-fueled sexual degeneracy, nor its consequences that come with growing success. It's a really fun movie, it's wild as fuck, most of it is true, and it'll make older people reminiscent for a time where Motley Crue weren't a complete joke. Number 10, Heavy Trip.
Vajakit oikeastaan soitatte edes. Sinfonista post-apokalyptista reindeer grinding Christ abusing extreme sotapakana fennuskandi metal.
This is a newer, small, independent film from Finland that just showed up on my radar, and it's a pretty fun, ridiculous time for any underground metal fans. Heavy Trip is the story of an extreme metal band from Finland who also fell into the trap of playing cover songs for way too long. Once they finally decide to record their first demo, they quickly find themselves with the opportunity to perform at a metal festival in Norway. The band get overly excited, and as the show gets closer and closer, they're faced with a series of unexpected roadblocks that go from relatively realistic things a band would face to just sheer absolute absurdity only a drunk metal fan could have possibly come up with. I really didn't know what to expect with this one, and it took a series of wild turns that I didn't see coming, which kept the plot interesting no matter how ridiculous it got. One of my favorite films of all time is The Blues Brothers, and it's very obvious that Heavy Trip took a lot of inspiration from it. In fact, it's a good way to describe this movie as a Scandinavian extreme metal Blues Brothers. The film does a great job at making fun of metal stereotypes while actually having knowledge of metal. The funny, dumber moments aren't really played as mocking metalheads so much as they're things that'll make us be like, oh yeah, we would do that. It's a very fun movie with lots of references only extreme metal fans will understand, and a plot that's so bizarrely batshit it will definitely keep you entertained. And the best part of it is it's free to watch on YouTube right now. Number 9, Little Nikki.
Holy shit.
This was one of my favorite movies growing up, as it's just stupidly hilarious. Adam Sandler plays the son of Satan, one of 3 of the Dark Lord's sons who grew up a little different than his brothers. While his brothers crave power and seek to rule over others, Nikki is just a good-hearted kid who wants to rock out to heavy metal in his room all day and not cause any trouble. One day, Papa Satan starts to deteriorate as Nikki's evil brothers escape hell and go to Earth to cause chaos and attempt to take over. And it's up to little Nikki to stop his brothers, take them back to hell, save Father Satan and the whole of humanity, and to make it even worse for him, he has to do it all in New York City, making friends along the way with a talking dog, a shy nice girl, and 2 stereotypically hilarious metal dudes.
Wrap your minds around this, gentlemen. Oh, no. Chicago.
I command you in the name of Lucifer to spread the blood of the innocent.
Oh my God, Chicago kicks ass.
This movie is just fucking hilarious and will leave you with several new quotes to use in your everyday life. Number 8, Get Him to the Greek. I quote this movie all the damn time. It is a hysterical glimpse into the inner workings of the music industry. Russell Brand plays an extremely famous rock star who's entered the washed-up phase of his career when an intern from his record label, played by Jonah Hill, proposes a massive comeback concert to try to revitalize the rock star's career as well as move his own self up in the industry. But the bright-eyed intern who thinks the rock star world is so glamorous is quickly tested to the height of his limits when it's up to him, and seemingly him alone, to make sure a sporadic, alcoholic, drug-addicted rock star with a massive ego makes it to the concert on time while facing all of the pitfalls of a grandiose, predatory business. This film is just non-stop hilarious. There's so many funny quotes and ridiculous scenes, and through all the comedy, it does manage to pull back a bit of the curtain on the music industry to show just how coercive it really is. Russell Brand is hilarious as the excessive fame-obsessed addict. Jonah Hill is great as the innocent intern who's shown how the life really is. And P. Diddy plays a predatory record label CEO who uses coercion, deception, and drugs to manipulate others. Gee, I wonder how much training he had to do for that role.
But if he asked me if I like African Child, I love that shit. I play that shit in my fucking sleep. I wake up to it and I brush my teeth to it. I love African Child.
Got it.
But no, I don't love African Child. Don't ever ask me that fucking question again.
Number 7, Detroit Rock City. That's right, there's a movie called Detroit Rock City. Are you really surprised? There's Kiss everything. I'm surprised they don't have a Hollywood film for every single Kiss song. But no matter your opinion on Kiss, whether you love them or hate them, this film is great. Any young fans of rock and metal music will have a great time with this road trip movie about 4 school kids fighting every obstacle in their way, from uptight conservative parents to boobs, on their odyssey to attend a Kiss concert. This movie is filled with hilarious moments that was every rock kid's wildest fantasies back in those days. What makes this work is the film is far more focused on the comedy and the story of it rather than just being another Kiss commercial. So even if you hate the band, you're not going to be overly bombarded with cheap advertising, and you'll find plenty of hilarity to be had here. And for any younger fans out there, it's a must-watch before attending your first rock concert. Number 6, Airheads.
Who'd win in a wrestling match, Lemi or God?
Lemi. God.
Wrong, dickhead. Trick question. Lemi is God.
One of the funniest and most ridiculous heavy metal themed movies is the 1994 classic Airheads, starring Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and a skinny-ass Adam Sandler. Like most of the films on this list, the guys are metal fans who have their own amateur band they are desperately wanting to be successful. The only problem is absolutely nobody knows who they are, and they suck. After meeting a record label executive who keeps blowing him off and disregarding Brendan Fraser's request to hear their demo, Brendan and the boys get pissed off and desperate and decide to barge into the local radio station and force them at gunpoint, water gunpoint, to play their demo on the air. But the boys are far too stupid for this plan to work, as they suddenly find themselves as hostage takers surrounded by police. While being trapped inside, conversations arise from the boys and the hostages that reveal some of the real shitty, slimy practices of the music industry, as most of the people inside realize that they're all completely full of shit. Despite this, Brendan and the boys make good use of their time in the studio, as they freely play all of the not safe for radio heavy metal that they want, which attracts a large crowd of metal fans curious to see what's going on. The movie balances humor and great rock and roll jokes with some inspirational messages about pushing forward with your aspirations despite any obstacles, no matter how ridiculous, unrealistic, and over-dramatized for Hollywood film they may be. I like how he's dancing on top of a cop car and not getting shot. Anyway, the movie is great, and it has some iconic cameos and one-liners that will definitely stick with you after watching.
I was editor of the school magazine!
Number 5, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Put them in the Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden? Excellent!
This cult classic, hilarious, heavy metal, and history-filled comedy follows a pair of lovable, headbanging dipshits named Bill and Ted, played by Alex Winter and John Wick. The two have aspirations of starting their own band, but are beat down with the reality of being dumb school kids in suburban America. Little do they know that the two of them are fated to be so much more, when one night, one of my all-time heroes, George Carlin, pops out of a magical telephone booth from the future and sets them on a mission to save the universe, sending them all throughout time to gather various historical figures and give the greatest class presentation ever. Bill and Ted find themselves stumbling through many moments throughout world history as they begin to form a team of some of history's most notorious figures, confusingly fumbling through time that finds them in some hilarious moments. Throughout Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Adventure, not only do they form history's greatest supergroup, but also begin to spread unity and peace through their oblivious, good-hearted heavy metal souls. Man, movies used to be way more creative back in the day. This one is just ridiculous, dumb, and hilarious. It's a good-spirited, dumb, fun movie. Bill and Ted are both lovable doofuses, and the various historical figures add some hilarious curveballs, like Billy the Kid and Sigmund Freud running from the police, Napoleon getting lost in Southern California, Genghis Khan destroying a Macy's, and Joan of Arc leading a workout class. This movie's got everything. Damn, Napoleon and Genghis Khan together on stage. That is my dream presidential ticket. Anyway, Bill and Ted is an excellent time. It'll have you smiling and laughing a lot, and its two sequels are actually pretty good too. Number 4, Wayne's World. Everyone knows this movie. Everyone already quotes this movie every time they've met a rock star for the last 40 years. This film is as classic to rock and roll as Led Zeppelin.
Hey! No stairway. Denied!
Wayne's World is the story of rock and roll basement show hosts Wayne and Garth, who are basically metal YouTubers before the internet was a thing. Like all rockers in 80 films, they're both lovable dipshits who are viewed as idiots to be profited off of by the industry. The two are offered a contract for their show by a sleazy industry shit and are thrust onto the line between success and integrity, as studio executives continue to push their will on the show. Wayne's World is essentially a parody of what an up-and-coming artist may experience from the music industry, except here focusing on two headbanging show hosts. If you haven't seen this movie, you'll at least be aware of many of its references. It's a great, stupid comedy to watch with some friends hanging out before a concert, and I just hope that Alice Cooper asked for residuals in his contract.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
And yeah, whatever happened to this actress? She was in a handful of movies and she was so hot, and then she just disappeared. I don't know. Anyway, number 3, Lemi. If you're watching this video and you don't know who Lemi is, go away. Lemi is the greatest being to ever walk this planet. He was rock and roll, resurrected, living the most real badass life. This film is a documentary that follows Lemi around during his daily life, living on Sunset Strip and touring with Motorhead, while telling his unbelievable life story and interviewing a whole ton of rock and metal stars along the way. Lemi was always legendary for his whiskey-fueled, cigarette-smelling, no-fucks-given way of life, and this film allowed fans to see the man himself backstage, at home, and shooting a tank, you know, casual shit. It's a fascinating insight into one of rock and metal's biggest icons, and features interviews with absolutely everybody worshipping at the altar of Lem. It's a great journey on the life of one of rock and roll's most unique deities, full of unbelievable stories, and especially now that the Godfather has passed on, it's a powerful tribute to the legend.
Don't forget us! We are Motorhead! And we play rock and roll!
Okay, so this next one that's so high up on the list will need some explanation because it's an Oscar-winning masterpiece of a film that has absolutely nothing to do with heavy metal at all, but I promise it'll make sense. Number 2, Whiplash.
Now, are you a rusher, or are you a dragger,
or are you gonna be on my fucking time?
Holy shit, I love this movie so much. Easily one of my favorite films ever. Some of you are like, huh? And some of you are like, fuck yes. Whiplash is the story of a young student who's an aspiring jazz drummer. Jazz is kinda like metal. Who's obsessively devoted to his dream of being a jazz legend. He gets his dream opportunity of being the student of a notoriously strict yet passionate jazz teacher, masterfully played by J.K. Simmons, who delivers a side-splittingly hilarious, abusive performance. He pushes the kid far past his breaking points, treats him with all the kindness of a drill sergeant on steroids, yet despite the constant literal abuse that's hurled at him, the kid grows more determined to push through any hardship, no matter how extreme, and prove himself. The reason this movie made it so high on this list for Metalheads is I think it should be required viewing for anyone who wants to be a musician, as it depicts the passion and drive one must have to succeed so well. It's obviously an over-dramatized example, there's many situations in here that no one should put up with, but Whiplash will grab any aspiring musician by the throat and scream, "Get to fucking work!" It's a litmus test for people to see if they actually want to be a musician and all the work that comes with it, or do they just think being a musician will be fun and easy? It is genuinely one of the most inspiring movies I have ever seen. It is so fucking funny, and it is expertly made. The ending of this film is so good. After I first watched it, I stood up and started applauding in my apartment by myself. I'm not making that up. That really happened. Like I said, this movie is about jazz. It's not about heavy metal, but I'm sure plenty of metal musicians watching this will understand why it made it so high on the list. And with that all said, we've only got one more. The crowning champion at number 1 goes to a documentary that opened an entire new world of possibilities for me as a kid. Number 1, Metal: A Headbanger's Journey.
Satan.
This documentary at the time of its release was the most extensive and well-researched one on heavy metal and its entire history. Filmmaker Sam Dunn, who now hosts Banger TV on YouTube, started his career with this awesome, interesting look into metal's timeline that includes many classic interviews with so many legendary musicians, from Dio to Mayhem to Alice Cooper to Enslaved and everyone in between. When this came out, I had been into metal for about 3 years or so, but I didn't really have any concept of its history or just how big it really was. This film gave me a roadmap to figure out my own metal journey. It introduced me to a ton of bands I didn't know of and opened my eyes to the entire European metal scene, as well as festivals. This movie taught me about Wacken. I didn't know anything like that existed, and this movie completely started my obsession with metal festivals. So it's your fault, Sam. It's funny, looking back on it now, there's definitely things about this movie that could have been done better. Some details aren't totally correct, but for the most part, it's still one of the best and enlightening metal documentaries out there. If you're newer to metal, you will definitely get a lot out of it, and even some headbanging veterans might learn a new thing or two. It's essential viewing for any metal fan, and Sam Dunn's other work is really good too. He has another film called Global Metal that I strongly recommend that covers bands and metal scenes in countries you may not expect, and Banger TV on YouTube has a lot of great content too. And that is the definitive list of the best films for metalheads. So now when you're not listening to metal, you can watch metal. Metal. How many of these have you seen before, and what are your favorite quotes from them? Post those in the comments below. Do you have any metal movie favorites that I didn't include here? Feel free to yell at me about it in the comments. For more from me, check out my band Dark Insanity. You can find us on Instagram, on Spotify, on all of the streaming platforms, on Bandcamp as well. We have our EP Rabid Psychosis out now. Subscribe to my second channel, Why It's Metal Podcast Clips, where I'll be uploading segments from my live podcast and podcasts that I do guest appearances on. We've got merch available for the channel and for the band. Now you can get Why It's Metal t-shirts, Savior of Metal hats, Dark Insanity t-shirts, Dark Insanity weed bags. We've got everything. Links for all of my stuff can be found in the description of this video. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video.